This is The Sports Life.
23-17, Wisconsin. 4th and 8, Nebraska. Camp Randall is rocking. Ball at the Badgers' 23-yard line. 2 receivers left, 1 on the right. Armstrong in the shotgun. Takes the snap. 1 pump. Looks. He'll throw. Right side. End zone. Broken up. It's broken up. And the Badgers win it in overtime.
And welcome into the Sports Life. Will Teeman here along with Dalton Shetler, the sounds of Matt LePay. As Wisconsin wins a big game in overtime against Nebraska in 2016, as they will go on to win the West Division of the conference. And welcome into our show as we have somewhat of a different show, I think, to present to you.
It is a little different. We're actually going to be joined by Malcolm Moran later on here on the show as we talk about fan interest in college athletics. Eventually, do they get priced out? Are they tired of following players and trying to figure out who's on their team each year? Malcolm Moran digs into if it's in danger for the future. And also, we bring you back a cover story about a former Michigan Wolverine who had one of the most challenging paths through life, and yet one of the most resilient men you'll ever meet is still finding the positives through it. We'll bring you the tale of Austin Hatch in the show.
Well, in terms of the year 2016, that's the season we're saluting. So where do we start, Dalton?
Well, why don't we start with the Big Ten football champions, that being Penn State in 2016. How did they end up becoming the champs? Well, because they knocked off Ohio State with a blocked field goal with about 4.5 minutes left in the game when they were trailing. Let's let Steve Jones take the moment away from here.
Durbin's long this year is 40. It's a 41-yard attempt. Far hash put down. Kick is up. It's blocked. On the turn, picked up by Haley. Haley in the 50, the 40, 30, 25, 20. Haley 10, 5. Touchdown, Penn State. Marcus Allen blocked it, and Grant Haley takes it to the house. And the Nittany Lions electrify Beaver Stadium and take the lead with 4:27 to go.
And they take the lead and they win it, and they go on to win a piece of the Big Ten East. And I don't want a spoiler alert. We'll save the best for next.
Yeah, that's right, because Ohio State, who ends up playing in the college football playoff that year, they were ranked number 2 at the end of the regular season, and they played in what some had deemed as one of the best games that we had seen in this century, because in the game against Michigan, where the Wolverines came in ranked 3rd, you had number 2 Ohio State, number 3 Michigan. It went to double overtime, and really all the drama came down to a 4th in inches where Ohio State had to get it. Here's TV Voices Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit with Jim Harbaugh after.
And it's 4th and a half a yard.
Wolverines need a stop. Then all the misery head to head. Keeper. Hit! Right at the marker. The spot will decide it. It looks like it's a first down. It is. Ohio State stays alive barely.
The officiating, I'm bitterly disappointed with the officiating today. That spot, the graphic display is the interference penalties. The one not called on us, on Grant Perry, clearly was being hooked before the ball got there. And the previous penalty they called on Delano Hill, the ball is uncatchable and by the receiver. See, I'm bitterly disappointed in the officiating. Can't make that any more clear. It was not. My view of the first down was it was that short.
So that's Michigan head football coach Jim Harbaugh feeling a little bit bitter about that spot. But that bitter feeling would cut even deeper as the very next play, Ohio State would end the game. And here's the voice of the Buckeyes, Paul Keels.
Samuel in the backfield with Barrett, who feeds it to Samuel. Sweeping left side, 10, 5. Touchdown, Curtis Samuel. And the Buckeyes win it in overtime. A game that they trailed by 10 points. Double overtime. Curtis Samuel sweeps around the left side for the touchdown run to give Ohio State a 30-27 victory.
Well, big play for the Buckeyes in the big rival game against Michigan. And I remember my first reaction when I heard Coach Harbaugh complaining about the officiating. Number one, we've all been around the Big Ten a long time, and one play, one spot really doesn't make a game win or lose. But the one thing I do know, if it gets tight and you're in the shoe, Ohio State's going to get the call. So you could say the same thing if you're in the big house. Michigan's going to get the call. That's just the way it is. So moral of the story, don't wait to the end. Maybe wrap it up earlier.
What a great moment in that rivalry. How dramatic that was. Something we still hang on to all these years later and certainly don't forget.
And the interesting thing about how the season played out, with that win by the Buckeyes, they tie Penn State for the lead in the East Division, but Penn State gets the tie break. They go on to play Wisconsin in the championship game, and they win it. But Ohio State was a team that got to go to the college football playoffs.
Well, now that the expansion is to 12 teams, they both would have made it.
They're both in, yes.
Well, let's take a look at one more football moment before we segue over to basketball. And let's go in the year 2016 to a classic of a finish between Iowa and Michigan. The final score ends up being 14-13 in this one. The Hawkeyes get the win, knocking off the Michigan Wolverines, who were ranked third at this time period. And it was shades of 1985. And you'll know why here in a moment, because 1985, Iowa and Michigan met in a number 1 versus number 2 matchup. The Hawkeyes were top ranked, and it came down to the very ending. A game-winning field goal kick through the uprights back in 1985. It led to a 12-10 win for the Hawkeyes. It gets referenced here by the voice of the Hawkeyes, Gary Dolphin, as we go to 2016's finish, ending on the foot of Hawkeye kicker Keith Duncan.
From the 23-yard line, it's a 33-yard kick. Tyler Kluver with a snap, the spot, the kick is on the way. It's good! It's good! Iowa wins 14-13. 14-13. Back to the future. 1985 revisited.
1985 revisited indeed. What a wonderful moment that was for Iowa Hawkeye fans. Now, our last sound of the week isn't going to be as nice or pleasant for the Iowa fans because this one happened in Iowa City, but getting the win over Iowa was the Indiana Hoosiers. This is in basketball on the hardwood floor, and at the end of the 2016 regular season, Indiana made the trip out to Iowa, got this win over the Iowa Hawkeyes to win a regular season title for the Big Ten, the last one that Indiana can claim, and it was the second of Tom Crean's. Here's the final moments from Iowa City with the voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fisher.
Now they give it to Clements. He inbounds. Jack with a three-pointer from the corner. Missed it. That's the ball game. Indiana holds on, and the Hoosiers win it 81-78. What a victory for this Indiana basketball team, and they guarantee the Big Ten championship here tonight.
And with that win, that was Tom Crean's second Big Ten title as a head coach. But what was interesting is I was listening to that clip with Don calling it. He has to have some kind of all-time record for calling the most title games for one school on planet Earth. Back with more in just a moment.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for children and teens. Hospital and doctor visits, prescriptions, shots, and more are covered. That's peace of mind for parents if a child is sick or gets injured. And parents may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if they've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit InsureKidsNow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
If you have diabetes, listen up. If you have insurance, you can qualify for a continuous glucose monitor. With a CGM, you can continuously track your levels and trends and spend more time in range, significantly lowering your A1C. More importantly, a CGM eliminates the one thing most people with diabetes hate, painful finger sticks. Order your new continuous glucose monitor today. If you use insulin and if you've seen your diabetes care provider within the last 6 months, you may qualify for your own CGM right now. We'll do all the insurance paperwork and deliver your new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. Medicare and most insurances will cover your CGM, so don't wait. Have your insurance handy and call the Aptiva Medical CGM Health Hotline right now.
800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. That's 800-948-6912.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Roxanne Watson is on a mission.
Hello, how are you doing today?
She wants more people to register as organ, eye, and tissue donors.
Are you an organ donor? Yes, I am. Yay.
My goal is to sign up the most people in the United States.
What drives her? Roxanne's own life was saved through the gift of a heart transplant, made possible by an organ donor.
I decided that day that I was going to devote myself to the cause of organ donation and signing people up and honoring my donor by doing that.
Now she's back to health, and she's a powerful force helping to save lives every day through her work. Imagine what you can make possible by leaving behind the gift of life.
8 people can be helped with the major organs, and up to 50 people can be helped with a little bit of everything. And when you think about it that way, that you could help that many people, it's amazing. It really is.
Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, if there is one thing intercollegiate athletics is not hurting for, it's situations with unforeseen consequences. As the courts continue to protect the rights of players, for some reason there has been little conversation about how the fans might feel about what's going on, like the portal, and how players seem to come and go like they're in single-A baseball. Not to mention how they might feel about all the money that's flying around for once amateur players. Well, joining us today is Malcolm Moran, who is the perfect individual to help us break down this situation since he has seen it from various angles. You see, Malcolm, as a Hall of Fame writer, spent 30 years writing for publications such as Newsday, the New York Times, the Chicago Tribune, and USA Today. Well, since those days, Malcolm is still covering major sporting events like the Final Four, but he has moved to the academic side. Currently, he is a director of the Sports Capital Journalism program at Indiana University, Indianapolis. So, Malcolm, welcome to our show, and here is our first question for you. With all that is going on in college athletics, are the fans in some way basically collateral damage?
Well, they clearly already are in terms of the price point. That has been a process that's been going on for at least 30 years, probably maybe a little more. When you look at what regular season men's basketball and football tickets cost late 90s, early aughts, and what they cost now, and more and more places imposing, whether they're called donations or whether they're called seat licenses or whatever the description is, the fairly widespread policy that you have to pay for the privilege of paying more. I mean, that's clearly become an issue that has changed the industry. And that was before the current revolution that we're trying to observe and digest as things change on a weekly, if not daily basis.
So, Malcolm, when you look at this thing, in the setup we talked about, the portal and players leaving, and with some of these teams, they almost look like a single-A baseball team. Like, who are these guys? Do you think fans, traditional fans of college athletics, will get discouraged and go, I don't know if I want to support this?
It's very possible. And I think it's the sample size now is too small to really make an informed judgment, or even if there was a way that an academic institution could do a study on this. There just isn't enough data because so much is happening so fast. But to me, the danger is that when you go back even a century or more, in so many of these communities, when you ask yourself, what's at the core of the attachment? Why do people care about a given school? It's either because they grew up with it and mom and dad took them to games when they were a little kid. Maybe they went to the school, maybe they didn't, but they still feel a sense of loyalty because they grew up there or their parents went there. A big part of it is about loyalty. And now what you're seeing at every turn is that what's the word that you keep hearing that defines the state of the industry these days? It's transactional. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the polar opposite from any sense of loyalty. So to me, that's the long-term danger. And when I say long-term, I don't know exactly how to put a year on it, but when you combine the threat to the emotional piece in all this, and the fact that there is no system at this point anyway that defines a structure that gives people that follow it, whether it's fans or us, a reasonable knowledge of who's going to be on a team from one year to the next.
You know,
I mean, major college sports these days would be the equivalent of Juan Soto waking up in November and saying, you know what, maybe I was a little hasty. Maybe I'd rather go back to San Diego. Yeah, I'll be there next year. Like when you don't know from one year to the next who's going to be playing for what team, that emotional connection has to be threatened at some point.
Well, and Malcolm, I think you nail it there with the disconnect. And I think we feel it all in different forms, right? Whether it's roster overhaul, kind of like you're talking about there, so many different things that are changing on a game-to-game basis. But how about this? I actually read this piece just before we started. It was written by June Lee, who used to be with ESPN. He just wrote this column for the New York Times. And he did a study on how much it would cost him to pay for all the streaming services if he wants to watch his favorite teams. And he put this together, and of course he's got Boston affiliation, said in 2004 a Boston fan would have to spend about $1,321 to follow her or his favorite team. That includes tickets, TV access, merchandise. And in the New York Times, he wrote that today that number would jump up to $4,785. That's a 262% jump. Wages in that same stretch have only risen 87%. We're really, I think, on the crux of maybe pricing out your average fan. How in danger is that, and are we at the tipping point?
Well, I mean, depending on the market and the particular school, I think we're well past it. I mean, I have friends whose families used to have Red Sox season tickets for generations, and that family bailed out about 15 or 20 years ago because the price point was too strong. I think that process has been going on for a long time. I think it's just going to become accelerated now, particularly on the college level, as you know, now all of a sudden that these major programs have to pay a payroll. Now, they may not be calling it that, but they got to come up with revenue to pay the content providers all of a sudden. And we know the prices aren't going to go down. I mean, the NBA finals are going on now. And I went, and I realize we're talking a long time ago, but Game 7 in Madison Square Garden, the Here Comes Willis game, I was in the green seats, which is the next to highest level in the corner. I think the ticket was $12.50. It wasn't $15, I can tell you that. Now, I think face value now for that location would be the equivalent of $800 or so if the Knicks had gotten to the finals, maybe more. I think that's a little beyond the rate of inflation from 1970 to this point. Now, is it possible that pro teams in large population areas can get away with that if it's a playoff series and there's enough demand? Maybe. But can college programs get away with it when maybe a quarter to a third of the regular season games are not going to be particularly inspiring as schedules are usually constructed? I don't know. I mean, I'll give you a great example. When UMass was really good, when John Calipari was there, they had a big short-term rivalry with Connecticut. And so they played, I think it was around the Christmas holidays, and the game was priced accordingly. I mean, it was, what's the term you hear now? Dynamic pricing. And I remember hearing somebody from Connecticut tell me that a fan had told them, you know what, for what you're charging now for season tickets, it would make more sense for me to go to the 4 of the 5 games that I'm most interested in and pay on the secondary market for those games that I'm pinpointing and not having to worry about getting rid of tickets to other games that I'm not interested in. So, I mean, I think that strategy has exacerbated things, the presence of the secondary market being available. What I do know is I went this year when UCLA played Indiana at Bloomington. And as far as I can remember, that's the first time that a UCLA team has played the IU men in Bloomington. I might be wrong about that, but it's the first time in my memory. And it was in mid-February. And at that point, IU seemed to have fairly realistic tournament chances. And there were multiple sections upstairs that were empty. And I just was very surprised to see that. Now, I don't know why. I mean, were people giving up on the team? Was it pricing? I don't know. But all I know is I'm not used to seeing multiple empty sections in Assembly Hall when the Hoosiers are playing a high-level opponent.
Well, when we come back with more of the sports life, Malcolm Moran is going to stay with us because we have more topics to address. But first, this time out.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender.
How little?
A few days in the shop little. But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
This is a potter's field. When people can't pay for their funerals, they are buried here. It is a lonely, desolate place, littered with unmarked headstones. No one visits. No one leaves flowers. But it doesn't have to be that way. For as low as $1 a day, you can ensure your family will have the money to pay your funeral expenses. We offer burial insurance plans that pay up to $30,000. Considering the average funeral costs more than $10,000, that's peace of mind for your family. There are no medical exams, your rates won't increase, and your policy cannot be canceled as long as you make your premium payments. Call now to get approved in minutes and ensure your final resting place is more than just a pauper's grave in a potter's field.
800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. That's 800-562-2407. Paid for by Final Expense Direct.
We all make choices about alcohol. Kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad. Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, remind me about that party again?
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations, and they want honest answers in everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path, because when you talk, they hear you. Learn more at underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Here's a real-life story that affects 50% of all of us out there. It's called divorce. If you've gotten divorced and now you're struggling to pay your bills and your credit card debts are completely out of control, you need to call this special debt relief hotline right now. We help people with all kinds of money problems caused by different life challenges, a divorce, a job loss, even heavy medical bills. All these life events can sometimes financially stress you out and cause you to get out of control. We help people get their lives back by showing them ways to consolidate and reduce their debt, in some cases for a fraction of what they owe. If your credit card balances are more than $10,000, call us and learn how to reduce your credit card bills and monthly payments now. Here's our number.
Paid for by Debt.com. Call now, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584. That's 800-810-1584.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Team here along with Dalton Shetler. And don't forget auto owners insurance, simple human sense. Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you. Well, today we're having a wonderful visit with one of the best writers in the land, and that being Malcolm Moran, a Hall of Fame writer. But he also is an educator, and he has a great perspective on what is happening in this roller coaster world of intercollegiate athletics. We've talked about, are we really looking out for the fans? We've talked about roster movement. We've talked about price points. And Dalton Shetler's got more questions.
Well, I wanted to follow up where we actually left off in the previous segment because we were talking about the empty seats at Assembly Hall in a significant, relevant game at the time with Malcolm. And Malcolm, I'm curious if that's a little bit of foreshadowing for what is to come because no doubt about it, these prices, they're going to continue to trickle down to the common fan. And with all of these different expenses, Tennessee had announced, a year ago that they're going to put a 10% charge on their tickets, and that will go towards this pot that will go eventually for the athletes. When you start looking at maybe that some seats are already empty for competitive games that are relevant and mean something here in the Big Ten, what does, if we end up in a spot where fans are saying, you know what, I don't need to spend a couple of $1,000s for a football game day on a Saturday, me and my family are out, what does a correction look like in college athletics if we end up doing that, where the prices have been too high and they want to try and regain the fan interest if they start losing it?
It's very hard to say at this point because, as I was saying earlier, all of this is so new, and we're absorbing changes that were once considered fantasy kind of stuff. And so I don't know what the answer is to that, but I think that the danger, and this is from somebody who has separated the college game from the pro game with an appreciation of both for a long time, I think the danger that exists if there isn't some solution to the year-by-year changes and overhauls in rosters, in some cases from top to bottom, I think the danger is that fans over time, not next week, but over time, if this system is not put in some more reasonable form, that it would be easy for somebody to come to the conclusion that we're looking at two different forms of professional basketball or two different forms of professional football. And in one of the forms, the rosters are more stable from year to year. I have a more reasonable knowledge of who's going to be playing for the team I care about, and the skill level is superior. And so I would rather watch Lions, Colts than Spartans, Hoosiers. I mean, I think that's a very real danger. And I say it from a standpoint that I would hate to see it happen, because to me, there has always been something separate and distinct about college sports that has a value that goes beyond the pro sports experience. But I think we're getting away from that because of the transactional nature of all this and the way the marketplace is just dominating the whole discussion. I mean, when's the last time you heard anything on a broadcast about these people being students? I mean, it's as if that element of the enterprise has just been pushed to the side and ignored. And to me, if that continues, I mean, that would be a very sad thing to observe.
So, Malcolm, as a final thought here, if we keep going down this path and you've nailed what could happen to fan interest, how long do you think the group has to not lose all the fans and get this corrected? Or if it goes too long, it's gone?
Well, if the speculation you read about the value of future media deals turns out to be accurate, and that's a big if, but if it does turn out to be accurate, the industry would clearly have a chance to buy some time in the next 7 to 10 years because there will be significant revenue coming in. I think the more immediate issue, if that plays out that way, will be the appearance. How good a show will places be able to put on? No matter how big a game is, if you have a 70,000 seat facility that has 15,000 empty seats, it's not going to have the same kind of big game atmosphere, either in the venue itself or on TV. So I think it would impact more that aspect of it if the media deals play out the way you're reading. But I just think the fan is getting pushed way past a breaking point financially. I mean, just imagine if you're a fan of a major college football team that believes it has a chance to play for a national championship. And the good news is there's a structure there. It's not like it was 30 years ago where people are arguing over how come Michigan can't play Nebraska. I mean, we're past that. I mean, I think there's agreement that that's a good thing. But now you're asking a fan base to travel to 3 different games within the space of 3 weeks during a holiday period where in increments of 7 to 10 days whether your team is going to win, and now you're trying to get a flight to Atlanta or Phoenix or New Orleans or wherever. I mean, you're asking people to spend a lot of money to be there to support their teams. And you wonder if there's a breaking point.
Is there any optimism in that heart and soul of yours to think that maybe, just maybe, somebody will wake up and look out for the fans a little bit?
Well, yes. And the main factor that comes to mind, and this is because I just happened to be invited to a reception in Indianapolis shortly after Charlie Baker became NCAA president. And it was a reception to welcome him to Indianapolis and just convey to him that there are all these people in town that are glad that he's here, and anything that we can do to help, we'd be happy to help. And he shared how and why he became interested in that job as president of the NCAA, and how when the idea was first floated, his response was like, why would they want me? Like, I've got no background in that. And he described this far more eloquently than I ever could. But the way he described it, the more he thought about the impact that being part of the basketball program at Harvard had on his life, and the impact that being a student athlete at Northwestern had on his wife's life, and that there was a whole generation of people coming through the system whose lives could benefit similarly if this whole thing could be stabilized. It conveyed to everybody in that room that he took on that challenge for all the right reasons. And if you're looking for such a thing as a puncher's chance for this incredibly complex system that he inherited as a result of the inaction for more than a decade of the previous regime, I think the fact that he's doing this for all the right reasons is a significant sign of hope.
As always, Malcolm, I appreciate you stopping by.
Thanks for having me, and anytime you need anything, you know where to find me.
Malcolm Moran, professor of practice and journalism at Indiana University, Indianapolis, where he serves as the director of the Sports Capital Journalism Program. Up next, a story about resilience. It's a good one, so stay with us. But first, this break.
So, I got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of uncertainty lurking under your hood. You know the feeling. I know I do. That sudden sinking sensation when you see a check engine light or your car unexpectedly breaks down and you're faced with sky-high repair bills. It's time to shield against unexpected repairs with CarShield. CarShield is America's most trusted auto protection company and has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau. Don't let the fear of a breakdown keep you up at night. Trust the Shield, CarShield, and say goodbye to terrifying repair bills and hello to peace of mind. Your plan also comes with 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, rental car options, and so much more. Don't wait till it's too late. Call CarShield now before a breakdown. Protect your wallet. Protect your car with CarShield. Get our best protection ever. Call now. You'll thank me later. 800-965-1292. 800-965-1292. That's 800-965-1292.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Did you receive a call or message that mentioned Social Security and demanded immediate action? Did the caller know your Social Security number or other personal information and tell you that your Social Security number had been used in connection with the crime? Did you feel worried that your Social Security number might be suspended, your bank account might be frozen or seized, or you could be arrested? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, demand your personal information, or instant payment, email or text you pictures or documents, or use a real government official's name to gain your trust. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them. Report this criminal activity to the Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Team here along with Dalton Shetler. I'm thinking, as a rule, all of us like an inspirational story of human resilience. So, with that thought in mind, we thought we would bring back such a story about Austin Hatch. With that cover story, here's Dalton.
Growing up in Fort Wayne, Indiana, Austin Hatch had a loving family surrounding him. But his life would forever change when he was just 8 years old.
We had an incredible life growing up. My mom, Julie, was an incredible homemaker, and my sister Lindsay was a ballerina, and she had such a bright future to look forward to. My little brother Ian, he was young. He was about 3 years younger than me. But we had a great relationship, and we were flying home from my grandparents' vacation home on September 1st, 2003, and tragically the airplane crashed and claimed the lives of my mom, Julie, who was 38 at the time, my dad's high school sweetheart, and then my sister Lindsay and my little brother Ian.
Tragic. Devastating. Austin and his father, Dr. Stephen Hatch, would have to pick up the pieces and continue on.
My dad and I found a way to press on and keep living in the midst of that tragedy, and we found a way. So he was remarried to a lovely woman named Kimberly. A few years later, she had 3 kids of her own, and we had a great blended family. It was source of normalcy in my life. Not the same, obviously, but really nice. My mom loved me like I was her own, and yeah, so it was a great blessing to have that family again.
Austin and his dad would find love with their new family, while Austin continued to do what he loved, playing basketball.
And I was working pretty hard on my basketball skills and got to be pretty good, fortunately, and Coach Beeline from Michigan offered me a scholarship on June 15th, 2011, just after my sophomore year of high school, and I accepted it right then and there on the spot. It was my dream to go to Michigan. You know, my mom went there. My dad did research at Michigan before going to medical school at Wake Forest. Both my grandpas went to Michigan, so it's been in my family for years. We grew up going to football games. We had season tickets growing up, and we'd go to a game or two every fall. And I kind of grew up, singing the fight song.
A dream come true. Austin was on his way to wear the maize and blue like he had always hoped for. The Hatch family was elated, but that high would be short-lived.
But tragically, 9 days later, we were flying to Northern Michigan this time, and the airplane tragically crashed and, claimed the lives of my dad and my second mom, and almost killed me too. I had a long list of injuries: a traumatic brain injury, punctured lungs, broken ribs, fractured clavicles, a hematoma in my leg. But the worst of those was the traumatic brain injury, and left me in a coma for about 2 months, and came out of that. I learned how to walk and talk and basically how to live my life again. The doctors told me after I had recovered and stuff, my traumatic brain injury was one of the worst ones they've ever seen that came out of the coma. So traumatic brain injuries are measured on a scale of 1 to 7, 7 being the worst. And my traumatic brain injury was the worst level 7 they've ever seen that came out of a coma, as I said. So my chances weren't good, but hey, I came out of that coma by the grace of God and just got to work.
Catastrophic. Unfair. As unbelievable and bewildering as it was, Austin had now survived 2 plane crashes while losing his family, sitting in a hospital with a terrible trauma the likes doctors had never seen. But in typical Hatch fashion, even in the loss, Austin saw the positive.
It was almost a blessing in a way, because I couldn't spend too much time dwelling on the loss. You know what I mean? Like, I was hurt so bad and I had so far to go on my recovery that gave me something else to focus on. And I think that's a big thing for me, is like, whenever we experience a loss of any kind, if we don't have anything else to keep us busy, don't have anything else to take our attention away from the tragedy or the loss, like, it's natural to dwell on that. But like, I found it was important to stay busy and find other reasons to keep living. I looked at my circumstances and I'm like, okay, Austin, well, you can either go left or right. You can't go straight down the middle, because there's no in between. You go left and you overcome it, or you go right and you allow yourself to be the product of your circumstances. And I chose to go left.
Furthermore, it helped when Austin was paid a visit in the hospital and refocused on his dream.
Coach Beeline came to see me in the hospital in August of 2011 when I had just come out of the coma. I was in a wheelchair. Not because my legs are broken, but because I couldn't walk. My brain couldn't tell my feet were one in front of the other. And he told me, he said, whenever you're able to get to Michigan, Austin, I can't wait to have you on my team. I can't wait to coach you. And so I realized I had some work to do to get from my hospital bed, my wheelchair, to playing on the team at Michigan.
So Austin grabbed his lunch pail and went to work, relearning how to walk and, moreover, relearning how to play basketball. Hatch moved out to L.A., attending Loyola High School, and pounded away to try and get back to the game he loved.
It took some work, So the accident was June 24th, 2011. It'll be the 10-year anniversary in about 4 weeks. I didn't play in a game until January 8th, 2014. So I didn't play in a game for about 2.5 years because I had a lot of work to do, right? I had to learn how to run again, had to learn how to shoot, had to learn the biggest thing was I had to learn how to maintain my balance. I'm not grateful for the injuries, obviously, but I'm grateful for the recovery journey that I had because I'm glad that I had to grind. It took forever. It took me 2.5 years to go to set foot in a game for 20 seconds, like a high school game for 20 seconds, right? It took me 2.5 years to get back to that point.
Then on January 8th, in his first game back, his miracle would come full circle.
Blessed to have my coach put me in a game when I was out in California, and I got in my first play. He called a play for me, ran a three, came off a screen, hit a three-pointer, like old times, and it was pretty cool.
And the dream would continue on to Ann Arbor, as Austin Hatch would graduate from Loyola and attend the University of Michigan, where head coach John Beilein and the Wolverines decided to honor Austin's scholarship. Austin and Coach Beilein would grow rather close during Austin's time at Michigan, which saw Hatch enter 5 games his freshman year before moving to a medical scholarship and serving as an undergraduate student assistant for the rest of his time at Michigan. Austin saw John Beilein as much more than just a coach.
Obviously, there's no one that's ever going to replace my dad. But while I was at Michigan, he really was kind of almost like a little bit of a father figure in a way, because held me accountable. Right, was tough on me, had different expectations of me than of my teammates because I couldn't play. I scored 1 point in 4 years. I'm the all-time lowest scoring full scholarship athlete in Michigan basketball history. It's a proud title. But yeah, he had high expectations. I couldn't play, but he said, you better make the effort to fill your role to the best of your ability. And I'm just so grateful for that have the life that we do. And actually, I'm going over to his house in a couple of days to see him, catch up, and we're going to take our dogs for a walk together. Yeah, he's a great man. One of the greatest coaches of all time. Obviously, more importantly, one of the greatest men I've ever had the privilege of knowing. And I was so blessed to have him as a coach for 4 years. I don't think it's an accident that I committed to a place like Michigan, 9 days before the second tragedy happened. So I couldn't imagine being anywhere else.
Austin would graduate in April of 2018 from Michigan with a degree in organizational studies, finishing his college career. Shortly after, Austin would marry Abby Cole, now Abby Hatch, his wife and former great Wolverines volleyball player. As he reflects on his life, with the ups and the downs, Austin puts an emphasis on the ups.
Yeah, and I choose to look at all the things that I'm so blessed to have in my life. The incredible family that I've had, the incredible doctors, and so it's like I found it's hard to be grateful and negative at the same time. It's hard to get overwhelmed by grief and sadness if I focus on just being grateful for the things that I had in my life, things that I do have still. Like it's hard to get overwhelmed by negative emotions, right? So my birthdays are hard still because I wonder who would they be today? What would my family be, right? My little brother would have just turned 23 3 weeks ago, and I'm like, man, who would he what would Ian be like today? And unfortunately I'm never going to know. But, I believe my whole family's in a better place. They're in heaven, and I can't wait to see them again someday, and I just want to make them proud while I'm still here, because evidently I still got a lot of work to do. If I'm still alive for a reason. Hey, you know what? If I survive, I don't want to just be here. I don't want to just survive, metaphorically speaking. I want to find a way to thrive in the midst of whatever I'm going through.
A 2-time plane crash survivor, Austin Hatch is now thriving, and he's doing it as a motivational speaker, a passion he has found to help others.
The adversity that I faced gave me a unique opportunity. I believe an incredible opportunity to add value and inspire people. There's a quote that I once heard: if you learn to use it right, the adversity that you face can buy you a ticket to a place you couldn't have gone any other way. And I think about that in my life. The adversity I faced is terrible, right? Very unfortunate, tragic, horrific, what have you, whatever adjectives you want to use. But if you learn to use it right, I knew that I could find a way to turn this negative into a positive by how I chose to respond to it and by the opportunity it gave me to inspire people. And, so I just made the decision that I was going to find a way to take a positive from this.
And that positive is helping others with the word grit. Austin uses his life's adversity and grit to change lives.
But I think grit's first and foremost is driven by a greater purpose. I think we need to work for something bigger than ourselves. And if we have that greater purpose, it'll drive the 4 key components of grit, especially in the face of adversity. The G stands for the growth mindset, which uses adversity as opportunity. The growth mindset believes we can find a way to grow from whatever we go through. It's probably not going to be the event that'll cause us to grow. I, of course, didn't grow from being in the tragedy that I was in, but the growth mindset believes we can grow from how we're forced to respond, and how we're forced to adapt, and how we're forced to find a way. The R is a decision to be resilient, and to make that decision, we focus on the things that we control, things like our attitude, our work ethic, and our response to adversity, because the circumstances are what they are. The I in grit is integrity, and of course we all know that integrity is about being honest and doing everything no one's looking, but I think it's especially about following through on our commitments and doing what we said we would do, especially when there's a change in circumstance. Like what Coach Beeline did for me, the integrity he showed to stay true to his commitment to me despite the drastic change in circumstance. That's the best example of integrity that I've ever heard. And the last letter is T. T to me is the team-first mentality. I think we should always think about the team first. We should train ourselves, and if we before me, we should remember that every person in every team has a role, and the role is very important. So that's grit to me. I think grit it'll drive us to overcome any obstacle, and it'll drive us to find a way. It's driven by the greater purpose first and foremost. The greater purpose drives the growth mindset, the decision to be resilient, the decision to live with integrity, and always follow through on our commitments. And lastly, that greater purpose will drive us to have the team-first mentality.
As for what Austin Hatch is doing these days, well, he is currently a full-time motivational speaker, and he lives with his wife, Abby, in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Back with our parting shots in just a moment.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little. But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
Everything is expensive right now. Gas, food, you name it. You're spending more, you are making the same or less money. So, what do? You rack up credit card debt. That's what you do. It's not your fault. It's the economy. And guess what? If you rack up too much credit card debt like some of us, you can't pay your bills. Then the credit card companies, as nice as they are, start hounding you for money. Then you start your downward spiral. A smart thing for you to do is to call the Zero Debt. They can help you consolidate all your credit card bills into one affordable payment. Millions of people have done it. It works to make you debt-free. Make this free call right now. It costs you nothing to learn more.
800-298-9093. 800-298-9093. 800-298-9093. That's 800-298-9093.
We are strong, we are resilient, and we will get through this together. But these are stressful times, and it's important to also practice good self-care. It's normal to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or afraid, but there is hope. Reach out to someone, connect with your friends, stay in touch with your community, and know that you are not alone. Learn more at wearebroadcasters.com/hope. Furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
I found hope in the midst of an overwhelming situation.
Alcoholism is a disease that can affect any family. Everyone suffers, but there is help and hope at Al-Anon Family Groups.
Al-Anon gave me my life back. I'm a better father and husband.
Are you in an overwhelming situation because of someone else's drinking? Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Local and virtual meetings are available. Maybe one could work for you. Call 1-866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
I'm Naheem Hines, professional football player. No matter the challenges I face every day in the NFL, my mom is always there for me, despite her own struggles with muscular dystrophy. And MDA is there for my mom. At their 150 care centers across the U.S., MDA is the leading organization in research and care for kids and adults with muscular dystrophy, ALS, and related neuromuscular diseases. Join me and learn more at helpmda.org today. Thank you.
Welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. Somewhat of a different show we've had for you this week.
You know what? It was, but in a good way. The conversation with Malcolm Moran about fan interest in if it's fragile, if it's in danger, when you talk about price points in college athletics and how it's going to keep trickling to consumers, and also just the overhaul of rosters all the time. And maybe it just doesn't feel the way it used to feel. That was excellent. And, of course, the inspirational, resilient story of Austin Hatch, always one to tug at the heartstrings, no doubt about it. And, by the way, if you missed either of those or you just want to hear the entire show again, give us a follow at Sports Life Now on Twitter or X, again at Sports Life Now. You can listen to those and the entire show.
So with that, we have now worked our way to our parting shots. And Dalton, what are you thinking?
Well, Will and I talked about this, and we're actually going to combine on this parting shot because, look, we understand rankings, polls. Is it necessary in June in the middle of summer when you're still trying to figure everything out? Maybe not, but it's got us a little bit excited, and I'll tell you why I'm excited, because with the college football season coming up here shortly, I'm just going to bounce over to ESPN and Mark Schlabach's work. He has 6 Big Ten teams in the top 25. It starts with Michigan at number 20, and then it goes to the Indiana Hoosiers, who, of course, had the breakout season just a year ago with Curt Cignetti. They check in at number 17 on ESPN, and then you move up to number 11, and how about the Fighting Illini of Illinois coming in at number 11 here. Number 8, the Oregon Ducks. Number 5, the defending national champion Ohio State Buckeyes. And number 1, the Penn State Nittany Lions. That's where the Big Ten football teams are stacking up in the national top 25, according to ESPN here. But beyond that, one thing that gets me also excited is the basketball season. And last year, entering the season, I don't think anybody really thought the Big Ten had a team that was maybe poised to win it all on the men's side. This year, there's some contenders. If we go over to Gary Parrish's work on CBS to take a look at what the Big Ten has to offer, he listed 26 teams as of now, with Ohio State being number 26, Wisconsin number 25, Illinois number 23, and then you go to number 16 where Oregon checks in. Gary Parrish has Michigan State at number 15. From there, it's UCLA at number 10, Michigan number 8, Purdue number 4. That's how Gary Parrish has it. So you have some national contenders, some top 10 teams, but altogether 7 Big Ten squads right there in that mix. And if we flip over to Big Ten women's basketball, how about this? You have Minnesota checking in at 17, Iowa at 16, Michigan State 14, Maryland 13, Washington 12, Michigan 11, and then you have UCLA at number 4, and that's according to Chantel Jennings of The Athletic, who does some great work over there. And that's 7 Big Ten women's basketball teams, without including USC, because, of course, Juju Watkins got hurt, but it's hard to fathom how great it would be then. But overall, the point is, again, understanding up front, it's June. The rankings don't really matter. But when you look at the Big Ten in football, men's basketball, and women's basketball, you don't just have reason to be excited with depth, which you do year in, year out, but you have a lot of reason to hope and be excited that one of these teams might just win a national championship again, like Ohio State did in football last year. And competing at the top of each of those sports, that's a really good thing for the Big Ten Conference.
So with that, that's a wrap for our show. Appreciate everybody joining us this week. And we should also note that you can find us wherever you find your podcasts, like SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple. And make sure to check us out and hit subscribe. As always, thanks to the Big Ten Network. The Sports Life is produced by Dalton Shetler. Our executive producer is Wendy Hart. So on behalf of Dalton Shetler, I'm Will Tiemann, and thanks for your time.